Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 23rd of June, now it's 10 past 10 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Kudadze and this is my first update today, in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment, and I will start with breaking news that was reported by Russian media few minutes ago, which is about radioactive materials. TASS news agency is reporting that Russian FSB, Russian Secret Service, detained 5 persons, a group with 5 members that were trying to buy 1 kilogram of radioactive material, Cesi 137, and they were willing to pay for it $3.5 million, and this group was working in coordination with one citizen of Ukraine. I guess that citizen was agent of Ukraine's military intelligence or some other secret service. FSB is not sharing information about it, but 5 individuals were detained exactly at the moment when they did try to buy this radioactive material. Well, FSB definitely did work perfectly well to neutralize this, I would say, terrorist group. But fact itself that Zelensky's regime is willing to commit any crime, including with use of radioactive materials, definitely are worrying, and this information should be taken seriously by Western societies also, to realize what kind of individuals their elites, Western elites, are supporting in Ukraine. This is extremely dangerous stuff. Just imagine what could be done, how much damage could be done if 1 kilogram of radioactive material was blown up anywhere. And I'm not talking about just a zone of special military operation. These terrorists could blow up this dirty bomb on Russian soil, or maybe on soil of NATO member states, to provoke direct confrontation, to blame Russia then and provoke direct confrontation between Russia and NATO. And by the way, I did spoke many times before that in desperation, Zelensky's regime will definitely try to provoke direct confrontation between Russia and NATO. And if you remember, quite a few times, missiles from Ukraine, Ukraine's own missiles, did reach Poland. And initially, who they blame for it? They blame Russia. But eventually, of course, everyone, when fragments of those missiles were seen, everyone did realize that that missile was launched by Ukrainian air defense systems. And now we are receiving information that Zelensky's regime, I'm absolutely sure that it was Zelensky's regime behind all this operation, were trying to buy radioactive materials. And I'm absolutely sure that there was never a risk that this terrorist group will receive any radioactive material in Russia. And I guess a site that was promising them to sell this Cesi 137 was working closely with Russian Ministry of Interior Affairs and Russian FSB and counterintelligence. But still, if they did try to buy it in Russia, I'm absolutely sure people that were behind this criminal and terrorist activity will try to buy radioactive materials in other countries also, and they may succeed. And as I said, I'm quite sure that Zelensky's regime is able to use, are crazy enough to use dirty bomb if they will manage to acquire radioactive materials, not just against Russia, but most definitely they will use it against on territory of NATO member states to provoke direct confrontation between Russia and NATO, and which countries are neighboring Ukraine from the west. It's Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, Romania. All those countries are NATO member states. So as I said many times before, Western society have to wake up before it's not too late. Before it's not too late, because it's too obvious that those terrorists that are running Ukraine, those mass murderers, will commit any crime to somehow not just damage Russia, but to preserve themselves and their relevance to Western elites. So this is very significant development. I'm quite sure during the day and in coming days we will learn some more about all this operation, and of course I will share additional information on my Telegram page and on my next updates. Let's talk about some other news now, and yet again we are still in Russia. RIA Novosti is reporting that according to governor of Kursk region, Roman Starovoyt, Zelensky's regime did launch drone strikes, drones in direction of Kursk region, and Russian air defense systems did work twice to neutralize those drones. I guess it was 2 waves of drones, and according to information that we are receiving, Russian air defense systems were quite successful, and they did manage to neutralize all the aerial targets. There is no reports about casualties among civilians on the ground. But yet again, time after time, we are seeing these kind of stories when Zelensky's regime is trying by any means to strike deep inside the Russian territory. And by the way, because we are talking about drone and missile strikes, let me spoke about yesterday's strike that Zelensky's regime conducted against bridges that are connecting Crimean Peninsula with Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions. And yesterday I did mention statement of Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, who said a few days ago that Kiev is planning to use Storm Shadow missiles and Storm Shadow long-range cruise missiles, and also HIMARS long-range missiles to strike deep inside Russian territory and to strike on Crimea. And if that will happen, according to Shoigu, then Moscow will take retaliatory measures and will strike decision-making centers in Ukraine. Well, yesterday night, Russian side did conduct missile and drone strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of Zelensky's regime. Explosions were reported from many areas of Ukraine, but for this moment, there is no reports that any decision-making center was struck in Kiev. So I guess if that's the case, yet again, let's wait a few more hours when Russian Defense Ministry will come up with its daily updates on situation in a special military zone. But if Russian side did not strike decision-making centers in Kiev, as it was stated by Shoigu, then I guess it will be very difficult for many people to take seriously any more statements from leadership of Russian Defense Ministry. Because, as I said yesterday, only so many red lines can be crossed with impunity, and only so many statements can be made without following subsequent steps. But yet again, as I said, let's wait a few more hours and see what Russian Defense Ministry will say about strikes that were conducted, missile strikes that was conducted by Russian side during the previous night. But as I said, for this moment, there is no information, not on Russian media outlets, not on Telegram pages that I see, that any decision-making centers will strike in Kiev. Let me continue now, and this is RIA Novosti's report, according to which Russian artillery did manage to destroy ammunition depot of Ukrainian armed forces in DPR. To be more precise, press spokesman of Russian Vostok grouping of armed forces, Vadim Astafyev, did said that Russian artillery did manage to destroy ammunition depot of 110th mechanized brigade of armed forces of Ukraine in Avdiivka. And same time, which is quite significant because Zelensky's regime is already struggling with ammunition, and more ammunition depots and warehouses with military equipment are destroyed, then more problems will have to face Zelensky's regime. And at the very same time, Russian artillery did manage to destroy Krab self-prepared artillery system, according to press spokesman of Vostok grouping, and this did happen in area of Minkovka, in area of Minkovka. Let me continue now, and Russian Defense Ministry did share information about situation on the Zaporizhzhia front line and DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, and according to Russian Defense Ministry, Russian forces are in full control of settlement of Sadove on Zaporizhzhia direction, and Russian Defense Ministry also said that settlement Urozhaina in DPR is also under Russian control. I'm mentioning these settlements because Ukrainian media, Ukrainian Telegram channels and officials did spoke about some local scale success that presumably Ukrainian forces did had, and according to Ukrainian side, these settlements were become under control of Ukrainian side, but it's not true, I guess. According to Russian Defense Ministry. So yes, during these times, it's truly difficult to have a good understanding of situation on the front line, because you see misinformation, disinformation from both sides, and propaganda from both sides, and that's why I'm saying quite often that we should take any information from any side with pinch of salt, and always keep in mind that both sides are engaged not just in battles on the ground, but also in battles when it comes to media sphere. So let me continue now and RIA Novosti. But anyway, when it comes to situation on this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia in Zaporizhzhia sector of the front line and DPR, even this pro-Ukrainian map has nothing to really say about any success of Ukrainian forces, and this is, by the way, pro-Ukrainian map. You can see clear mistakes or errors on this map in favor of Zelensky's regime, but nothing on the large scale or on significant scale, because we all know that Zelensky's regime was forced to impose operational pause on the front line. Pause. Well, so Zelensky's regime was forced to stop its counteroffensive at least with the active use of large groups of forces, and now we are seeing some local skirmishes on the line of contact. And Zelensky's regime was forced because of this catastrophic failure of the initial stages of so-called and anticipated by many counteroffensive. So yes, let me give you a quick summary of situation on the front lines. So just a few minutes ago we had reports that there was some explosion in Mariupol, this city on the coast of Azov Sea. There is, I did share on my Telegram video footage of that explosion, but for this moment there is no confirmed information what was that, missile strike, drone strike from Zelensky's regime, or maybe some old ammunition did blow up. So let's wait and see. During the day we will probably learn some more about that. And when it comes to quick summary of the situation on the front line, Kherson region, it's artillery duels between the sides. Zaporizhzhia region, it's operational pause. We are seeing some local scale skirmishes, and main hot points still are area of Pitikhatki here and Orekhovo direction in general, and also this bridgehead that Russia had between Ugledar and Gulyai Pole. And I guess maybe Zelensky's regime will be able in coming days or weeks to establish control over the few settlements that are still left on this bridgehead that are under full Russian control. But yet again, if even that will happen, Zelensky's regime had so much casualties to establish control over this bridgehead that I don't think any expert in the world will ever justify Ukrainian actions in direction of this bridgehead. And by the way, most important point is that this bridgehead was never on the first line of defense. First line of defense is in quite a few kilometers from this area. So despite these heavy fightings, and you will see video and photo evidences of destroying columns after columns of Ukrainian forces in this area, including on my Telegram page, by the way, and all this stuff was done for what? This area not even on the first line of defense of Russian side. But yet again, according to some reports, Zelensky's regime already lost in Zaporizhzhia sector of the front line up to 15,000 soldiers, 14 to 15,000 soldiers, which is in Ukrainian style, it's 4 brigades, 4 or 5 brigades, by the way, because some brigades in Ukrainian army only has about 2,500 soldiers, up to 3. So Zelensky's regime already did sacrifice at least 3 to 4 brigades in Zaporizhzhia sector of the front line to achieve basically nothing, because they did not even reach first line of defense, which is unbelievable. You tell me what that is. That's a crime against Ukrainian citizens that Zelensky's regime is committing by sacrificing thousands and thousands of citizens of Ukraine. That's what it is, really. Let me continue, by the way. Donetsk direction, as always, hot point, especially in area of Marinka and Avdiivka. There was some reports yesterday that Russian side did conduct offensive operation in direction of Avdiivka, surprising offensive, local scale, and forward units of Russian armed forces even enter southeastern parts of this city. And if that's true, then maybe in coming weeks in coming weeks, Russian side will try to fully encircle Avdiivka and establish full control over the city. But yet again, I am still maintaining my position that Russian forces will try as long as it's possible to use Avdiivka and this direction in general as a trap, like it was done in Bakhmut, in Artyomovsk. So maybe this Russian local scale offensive was also part of this this strategy to force Zelensky's regime to send some more reinforcement in direction of Avdiivka, and with that stretch even more Ukrainian forces on other directions. So, and by the way, we had reports that Russian side did conduct offensive operations in Bakhmut direction. Yeah, Bakhmut, Artyomovsk, you know, this town has these two names, which was also surprising because previously, for quite some time now, all we hear is Ukrainian attempts to conduct some local scale offensives on the flanks of Bakhmut, but now it's Russian side that becoming more and more active on daily basis, really. With each passing day, Russian side is more and more active in Bakhmut direction, and who knows, maybe in coming weeks we will see that Chesov Yar and Konstantinovka will become hot points on this sector of the front, as I was predicting for quite a long now. And by the way, when it comes to Seversk direction, there was some reports that Ukrainian forces, because they had some losses in this area, Kiev is now sending reinforcements in this direction, and there are some quite fierce fighting going on, especially in area of Belogorovka. But yet again, we did had some preliminary reports that Russian side did manage to conduct some successful offensive operations in this area, and if that's the case, then I guess Belogorovka fairly soon will become under full Russian control, and then Russian side will start advancing in direction of Yampol here and in direction of Liman, and after that we can probably say that Seversk will end up in operational encirclement. Let me continue, and of course Kupiansk direction is also becoming a hot point lately. And by the way, why am I using this map? It's just more convenient because of colors, because this map, for example, much more accurate, but colors that are used not really allowing to use it easily. So when it comes to Kupiansk direction, for last quite a few days, we did had constant reports about advances of Russian forces in this area. And by the way, if we take a look on this map here, and these white dots are approximate line of contact, and according to some reports, this forest massive here is entirely under Russian control. And if that's the case, then Sinkovka, this settlement, we can say is in operational encirclement or in very difficult situation, because if Ukrainian forces will not withdraw from here, they will, Russian forces will just run over Ukrainian positions, because they have no chance to withstand Russian offensive, because they did lost supply lines. Basically, it will be extremely difficult for Ukrainian forces to send reinforcements and armored vehicles or ammunition, because as this forest line is under Russian control, and to use these fields is just suicide, because they will be spotted and destroyed by Russian drones and aviation or artillery. And when it comes to Kupiansk, itself, just look how close Russian forward units are, because if this forest massive is under Russian control, then basically they are only in about 2 kilometers from Kupiansk itself. And by the way, there are some reports that during this offensive, Russian side may not try to establish full control over the entire Kupiansk, because this city is divided by Oskol River, if I'm not mistaken. So Russian side will probably try to establish control over the right side of this city, on the right bank of the river. But yet again, who knows if Russian side did manage to move forward rapidly and cross this river in many places, then maybe entire city will become under full Russian control. And by the way, we did have the reports on Russian media and Russian language Telegram pages that Zelensky's regime now in hurry are sending columns, many columns of armored vehicles and manpower in direction of Kupiansk, because they did realize that they are in big trouble in this direction, and Russian forces may retake control over the entire city in fairly short amount of time. So let's see what will happen in coming days, and if this reinforcement that Zelensky's regime is sending in direction of Kupiansk will manage to stabilize Ukrainian lines of defense in this area. So that's a short or quick summary of the situation on the front line. Let's talk about some news now again. And next information about Kupiansk direction. RIA Novosti is reporting about what I just said, that Zelensky's regime is trying to reinforce Kupiansk directions, and according to a military expert from LPR, Andrei Marochko, Russian surveillance drones and Russian intelligence, military intelligence, did see movement of Ukrainian armored columns with military equipment that was never used before in combat. And you can say this because this military equipment looks fresh, like they never ever participate in combat. So maybe we will see some Western-made armored personnel carriers and main battle tanks in Kupiansk direction. Also, maybe even Challengers, British Challenger 2 tanks, because even though Russian side did manage to destroy quite a few now Leopard main battle tanks, German-made Leopard 2 main battle tanks, we did not have any reports about Challenger 2 tanks, and we did not even see any video or photo confirmation that Challenger 2s are even on the front line. So maybe we will see now those tanks on Kupiansk direction, because it's definitely emergency for Zelensky's regime, because if they will not reinforce and if they won't be able to stabilize Ukrainian defense lines in Kupiansk direction, then Russian forces will probably use opportunity and establish control not just over the right bank of that city, but also over the left bank. Let me continue now, and this is also RIA Novosti's report, according to which, and I did spoke already about this, Russian armed forces managed to establish new positions in direction of Artyomovsk and in direction of Artyomovsk, which is Bakhmut, by the way. And yes, I did spoke about it. I did said that last couple of days it's a Russian side that are conducting local scale. At this stage, it's local scale operations, but still for previous let's say 2 or 3 weeks we only were hearing about attempts of Ukrainian forces to achieve any success on the flanks of Bakhmut. But nowadays it's a Russian side that are active in these areas, which definitely highlights that Ukrainian forces are extremely stretched on the central part of the front line and in the northern part of the front line. They are extremely stretched, they are extremely tired, Ukrainian units and Ukrainian military personnel, many units did not had rotation for quite a while. So just imagine when units are staying on the front line under constant shelling and in constant fight for months, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's exhausting, and of course, no matter how strong a person you are, eventually you will get tired, not just physically but also psychologically. And lately offensives, local scale offensives of successful offensives of Russian side in central and northern sectors of the front line clearly highlights that Ukrainian forces are on the brink of breakdown, and they are not in position to conduct any successful combat, and they are extremely tired and stretched. That's my reading of this picture. So let me continue now. Let me continue. Quite a lot of news really that are significant, so I will try to at least go through headlines. It's already 31 minutes. So this is TASS news agency's report, according to which yesterday, this was reported yesterday afternoon, and we have information that yet another Ukrainian unit, this time 20 soldiers, did make the right decision and did surrender and save their lives. This time this unit surrender in Kremenaya direction. Well, we are on daily basis now seeing this kind of instances, which is once again highlights that Ukrainian forces are exhausted and on the breaking points, and many soldiers and even units are now making this right decision to lay down arms and save the lives and surrender, because they don't have to die for Zelensky and his Western masters, man, and geopolitical interests of Western elites. That's for sure. Let me continue now, and this is TASS news agency's report, according to which yesterday head of one of the Russian secret services, Patrushev, did report to President of Russian Federation Vladimir Putin about situation on the front line, and he said that since the beginning of the so-called Ukrainian counteroffensive, 13 Western-made battle tanks were destroyed. 13 Western-made battle tanks were destroyed, and also 59 Western-made armored personnel carriers. Probably he was talking about Bradleys and Strikers. Maybe M113s also. There is no specification about exact equipment that was destroyed. And when it comes to overall assumption of Ukrainian losses, Patrushev did said that Ukrainian forces from 4th to 21st of June lost 246 tanks, including 13 Western-made battle tanks, also 595 different types of armored personnel carriers, armored cars, and so on. Also, and among them, 152 BMPs, that's Russian Soviet-era armored personnel carriers, and 59 some other Western-made armored personnel carriers, and also 443 other military equipment, pickup trucks, recovery vehicles, and so on. Just armored cars that are used to move personnel in more or less safe conditions. But as we can see so many videos from Zaporizhzhia region, even tanks cannot move in those areas with safety. So yes, that's reports that we are seeing from Russian media, and Patrushev is head of head of how you say it? Patrushev is the head of Security Council, yes. Secretary of Security Council of RF. Yes, these official names of these structures, man, it's, you know. So that's why, if you remember, days before, Putin did mention that Zelensky's regime did lost 246 tanks, and probably his information was coming from a report that he received from Patrushev. So let me continue now, and TASS news agency is reporting about statement that press spokesman of Russian President Dmitry Peskov did made, and he said that the West is putting on the Kiev maximum pressure to force Zelensky's regime to continue this suicidal counteroffensive. Well, this is absolutely true. This is absolutely true. We all know this, and well, sometimes Peskov does say some stuff that it's difficult to understand that he's coming from or to agree with him, but this time he is absolutely correct. Entire world did see this. So this is RT's news report about mobilization in Ukraine, and well, Zelensky's regime did make decision to expand general mobilization, and in previous days Ivano-Frankovsk was declared general mobilization, and yesterday afternoon we had reports that in northern part of Kiev also was general mobilization declared. So this is once again highlights what I just said a few minutes ago. Zelensky's regime has a huge problem when it comes to manpower, and I believe Zelensky and his associates won't be able to resolve this issue. They can declare general mobilization on all the territories that they still control, but in that case we will see more and more instances when civilians will just fight back, not just refuse, but they will fight back, because we all see tactics that Zelensky's regime is using. They are kidnapping people. They are kidnapping people from shops, from streets, from parks, just from anywhere. And I don't think this general mobilization will help Zelensky's regime very much. It will just provoke Ukrainian society to coordinate better, to protect themselves. That's it, really. Let me continue. This is RIA Novosti's report, according to which even Western media are now forced to acknowledge that Ukrainian counteroffensive is not going according to expectations and the plan, and no other than CNN is now talking about it. This pure propaganda outlet of Pentagon, CIA, and White House. So yes, it's their own fault, isn't it? They did generate this high level of expectation. They were talking about for many months that now will Zelensky's regime start this counteroffensive, and they will achieve this and they will achieve that, and they create extremely high level of expectations, and now they are trying to do some damage control, because I guess societies, maybe not everywhere, but at least some part of society in the Western states are beginning to question reportings that they are receiving from Western media and statements that they are hearing from Western elites, maybe. And of course, entire Western media now is in defensive, and they are trying to downgrade the meaning of Ukrainian counteroffensive any way they can. At the same time, they are continuing to pressure Zelensky's regime to continue, But, well, I guess society in the West do have a good enough reasoning now to at least question information that they are receiving from their own elites and from their own media. That will be first step towards learning true. So let me continue, and this is TASS News Agency's report, also very significant information. As you know, during the previous days, many representatives of Zelensky's regime, including Zelensky himself, did spoke about Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and they did said that power plant is mined, and Russia is planning some nuclear provocation on that power plant. And I don't think anybody did receive seriously these statements from Kiev, but we have a response now from aide of General Director of Rosenergoatom concern, Rinat Karcha, and he said that all the statements that about Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant that are coming from Kiev clearly indicates that Zelensky's regime is planning some provocation in this direction. And maybe they will even try to conduct some military operation to establish control over the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which is absolutely correct. I did spoke about this possibility quite a few times before, even in my yesterday's update, if I remember correctly. And yes, I guess Zelensky's regime, not for nothing, did start talking about this Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. After they did blow up, after Zelensky's regime blew up Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant, water level did drop extremely in Kakhovka water reservoir, and now they can quite easily cross this area here and conduct some military operation in direction of Energodar and Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. That's a possibility. And I guess statements that we are seeing from Ukraine about mines in Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant are serving for this purpose to, if anything goes wrong during their offensive, to blame Russian side. Because, by the way, we do have a statement from even head of IAEA. I did share this information on my Telegram also. So IAEA denied information that was spread by Ukrainian side that Russia did mine reactors in Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant or cooling systems of reactors or anything really. So IAEA, even though this so-called international organization is a tool in Western elites, they have to play according to at least, some rules. And they cannot say that Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is mined, because if they will, even if Western elites will order this Grossi or whoever from this organization to say anything like that, because Russian side can easily debunk it. Russia can invite journalists from all over the world and take them to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. And then IAEA will lost just all the credibility that it still maybe has left. So that's why I guess this Rafael Mariano Grossi, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, denied claims made by the Ukrainian government that the cooling pond of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant had been rigged with explosives or any other critical infrastructure on that power plant. But yet again, I guess Zelensky's regime will definitely try to conduct some military operation in direction of Ugledar and Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and if anything, they come up with these crazy statements that power plant is mined just in case anything goes wrong on power plant, and they will have a kind of opportunity to blame Russia, that, you know, it's not us, it's Russians because they did mine this power plant. But of course, at this stage, no one gonna take seriously any statement from Zelensky or his associates. It's no serious person can take those criminals seriously, man, or their statements. It's impossible. Let's continue now, and this is TASS News Agency's report, according to which US columnist and the former deputy of finance minister of US during the Reagan era, Paul Craig Roberts, did write an article in which he said that deliveries of F-16s to Ukraine will may provoke nuclear war. Well, in theory, yes, in theory that's a possibility, but in reality, I don't think these F-16s will play that crucial role, even if they will be delivered to Zelensky's regime. But by the way, you know my take on this topic of Western-made fighter jets. I'm quite sure we will see on the front line Western-made fighters only when NATO member states, especially Poland, Romania, Slovakia, maybe a few others, will try to establish control over the western regions of Ukraine. And when they will try to when they will send not just ground troops in the western Ukraine, but also try to establish no-fly zone over that area. This is only way, in my understanding, when we will see Western-made fighter jets in the skies of Ukraine. That's it. I don't, even though I don't have any respect for Western elites, majority of whom are just mass murderers and terrorists, I don't think they are that stupid, really, to give Zelensky's regime weapons that may, at least theoretically, truly cause direct confrontation between Russia and NATO. Western elites already are risking too much when they giving Zelensky's regime long-range missiles like Storm Shadows and long-range missiles for HIMARS systems. But if they will give Zelensky's regime any other weapons that will have even longer range and even more devastating potential, then I guess gloves will be off and we will end up in direct confrontation between Russia and NATO. And I don't think Western elites want to die. Simple as that. I just don't think Western elites want to die or are ready to die. So that's why they will never ever, despite all these talks, that's why they will never ever give Zelensky Western fighter jets. They may say, they may make statements that they did deliver fighter jets to Zelensky's regime, but in reality, it will be Western pilots that will operate with these fighter jets, and Zelensky's regime will have no control over those fighters whatsoever. That's it. And by the way, as I said, Western neighbors of Ukraine will definitely try, in my understanding, to establish control over the western regions, and that's when we're gonna see these Western fighter jets. When Poland, Romania, and others will try to establish no-fly zone over the western parts of Ukraine. Let me continue now. And how long is this video? 49 minutes. Well, maybe I have to skip rest of the news. So, okay, I will go through headlines, just headlines. TASS news agency is reporting that Denmark did ask US permission to train Ukrainian pilots on the F-16s. Very same topic. These kind of statements that they will train Ukrainian pilots are made just for plausible deniability. That's it. No Ukrainian pilots will be allowed to fly on any Western-made fighter jet, really. They cannot even be trained in 2 or 3 or 5 or 7, 10, 12 months, man. That's impossible. This is not a ordinary car, for God's sake. It's a fighter jet. Let me continue. This is Interfax is reporting that in US Senate, Senator Lindsey Graham, this extremely Russophobic mass murderer, come up with the initiative to make some legislation which will allow US to receive any use of nukes by Russia against Ukraine, against Zelensky's regime, as an attack on NATO. Well, Lindsey Graham is extremely uneducated and full individual, and probably he has no idea or no understanding what NATO is and what NATO means. Otherwise, he will not come up with this kind of crazy idea. NATO, Ukraine have to be part of NATO, and only then NATO may react on any action against Ukraine. But Lindsey Graham, this Russophobic mass murderer, man, it's a shame of US that they have so many illiterate, completely full primates in Senate and the Congress and in elites in general. Let me continue now, and this is TASS news agency's report. And Hungary come up with the idea to enlarge grain deal, and they did at least partially receive support from Poland, and they want more ports to be involved in this deal. It's too late, really, because I don't think Moscow will prolong this grain deal, but I can understand Hungary is coming from in this case, because if grain deal will be shut down, will not be prolonged, and I think it won't be. Then all that agricultural produce from Ukraine will just flood EU. EU is already flooded with Ukrainian produce, but there will be some more. And of course, Hungary, Poland, and other, especially Eastern European states and Central European states, want to protect their farmers and their economy, and they have interest grain deal to be prolonged, but I don't see any Russian interest in this. So I hope Russia will not prolong this grain deal, because it don't serve Russian interests, and never did. And by the way, Russia did said many times before that even if Moscow will want prolong grain deal, Russia will deliver grain and flour and whatever is needed to countries that need some support. And Russia will deliver those goods for free. That statement was made by high-ranking Russian officials quite a few times before. So I hope Moscow will won't prolong that grain deal. It will run out on 18th of July, as I understand, and after that there will be no grain deal no more. Let me continue. This is Kommersant news agency report, according to which United Kingdom is not really happy with US because of the situation around the head of NATO. As we all know, London wanted current UK's defense minister Ben Wallace to become next head of NATO, but US is against it. US and Biden administration wants to keep Jens Stoltenberg. And well, Telegraph did write article on it and mentioned that US is acting towards UK not really in the as a strategic partner, and not even in the friendly on the friendly terms, which is true, by the way. And you know, UK and US relationships were always quite strange. You know, they were kind of strategic partners, but same time elites of these two countries not really getting well with each other, or getting, you know, there were so many instances in the 20th century when the leaders of two countries just almost openly hate each other, and elites, by the way. And I guess it's still the same now. Nothing did change in that terms. Let me continue now. And RIA Novosti is reporting that Scholz did spoke about again about Ukraine's possible about Ukraine and the possibility that this state will become member of NATO. And Scholz said that even Kiev now acknowledges that it's impossible for Ukraine to become NATO member states. And well, Scholz is trying to downgrade entire this topic. Once again, I never understood why there was so much talk about Ukraine joining NATO when it was clear for forever that this failed state cannot become a member of NATO, especially after 2014. But you know, for whatever reasons, Western elites, Western media did make a big deal from this topic, and now they are trying to downgrade the issue because, once again, I guess society is beginning to ask some questions. I mean, you did spoke about Ukraine joining NATO forever now, and why you are not delivering, when in reality there was never even slight chance that Ukraine will become a member of NATO. But of course, Western elites don't want to say true to their public. They are constantly lying, and yes, that's why they are forced constantly, really, all the time to downgrade all the topics that they are exaggerating or they are pushing from the beginning. And yes, this is RIA Novosti's report about yet another some stupid statements from a foreign minister of Germany, Baerbock. And this time she said that it's in Berlin's interests to support Ukraine in its fight against Putin. I mean, as I said, man, it's truly difficult to even understand what these uneducated, stupid individuals want to say, or what the logic behind their thinking process is, because I mean, they are too stupid, man. You cannot understand this level of stupid people, and it's a shame for the Western world that they have in elites such disgraceful individuals, really. And that's a huge problem for Western society, I guess. You know. Let me continue now. And by the way, as you know, there's some scandal yet again between China and US, because Biden said that Xi Jinping, Chinese leader, is a dictator. Well, China did react on this statement, and they are demanding now apologies from US. They are not playing around. And by the way, Xi Jinping are autocrat. It's an autocratic regime, I guess, but not dictatorship. Dictatorship, in my understanding, it's when one person makes all the decisions. It's all about one person. Yeah. and he or she is dictating everyone everything. That's dictatorship in my understanding. But in China, you don't really have dictatorship. There are some one-party rule, yeah, but these party officials still have to have negotiations about this stuff and that stuff. And Xi Jinping, I don't think Xi Jinping come up and say, you know what, I want to do this and let's do it now. I don't think it does work like that. So he's autocrat, I guess. He's, you know, he has enough power in its hands to make some significant decisions, but yet again, even then, he has to be part of decision-making process. There are some other people also involved. Like here in Russia, I will say here Putin and system as a whole is quite autocratic. Presidential institution is very strong, and but still, even though Putin has quite powers in his hands, he has to be in consultations all the time, because he's not making decisions just because he wants something to do. It's not working like that. It's I mean, it's wrong understanding of systems. That's what is happening really. And by the way, I don't know about China. It's none of my business really. But in Russia, I think this system with a strong presidential institution is working well enough. So you know, whoever will be next president of Russia, I hope he will continue to maintain strong presidential institution, because for Russia it does work. For some other countries, parliamentary republic may work, you know, better way, but not for Russia, I think. But yet again, I'm not political scientists and you know, whatever. We are talking about not political systems, but yes, I mean, China now is demanding apologies from Biden. Of course, he's not going to apologize. Probably he's not even remembering that he's ever even talk about Xi Jinping or with Xi Jinping. But yes, China did react quite aggressively, and that's once again highlights level of self-confidence in Chinese leadership. Because yes, they are becoming, you know, they are superpower, and they are very well aware of that. Let me continue a few more news. And by the way, RIA Novosti is reporting that Sweden may classify some informations about investigation of these attacks on Nordstream, terrorist attacks on Nordstream pipelines, and well, that's quite a expectable development. Really will be if Sweden will classify information, and I guess many other countries in Europe, including Germany, will do the same, because I don't think Berlin or Stockholm, capital of Sweden, Stockholm, or just a sec. You cannot remember everything all the time, isn't it? But Stockholm, yes, I was right, for God's sake. So yes, I don't think Berlin and Stockholm want to have any significant issues or problems with Washington, really. So of course they will classify all the information that will indicate that it was Biden's White House and the US Secret Services and Pentagon that was involved in that act of international terrorism. But no matter how much information they're gonna classify, entire world knows what happened, and I don't think US will ever be able to rebuild its reputation after this kind of terrorist activity. I don't think it's even possible theoretically to rebuild the trust and reputation. That's how damaging for US this Biden and administration, Biden and his associates are really. I think these people are true disaster for US, and hopefully in upcoming elections US citizens will make some decisions and you know, remove these criminals from power. But yet again, it's none of my business, isn't it? It's up to US citizens. But I guess majority of US citizens will agree with me, but that Biden and his associates are true disaster for US. And by the way, few more news. How long is this video? Wow, it's more than an hour now. Okay, Rypkov, deputy of Russian Foreign Ministry, Sergei Rypkov did made a statement about possibility that French President Macron will participate in any ways in BRICS, upcoming BRICS summit in South Africa, and he said that Moscow did make sure that South African leadership is very well informed about Moscow's position, that it's unacceptable Macron to be presented on that summit in any way, shape or form. And well, I guess it's not just Russia, but I guess China also don't want to hear anything from Macron. And South Africa itself, or Brazil probably had, or India probably had same position, because who the hell is Macron, for God's sake, man? BRICS is a serious institution that is forming right before our eyes with huge perspectives. And they have a meeting, leaders of these BRICS member states have to meeting and discuss some serious issues. And during those meetings, why they have to spend time to listen to some clown, man? If they want to see some clowns, they can go to some, I don't know, man, circus. So why they have to spend time to listen to clowns like Macron? I mean, what is the point? I mean, really? I don't know. So that's why I guess Moscow's position that they don't want to see Macron's participation in that meeting, quite understandable and logical. I mean, why they have to spend time to listen to that idiot, man? Why? Who the hell is Macron? Nobody. Just an ordinary marionette in hands of real decision makers in the Western world. We can call it globalists or whatever that group of criminals are, but you know, we all know that Macron is not the one of them, not the decision maker, isn't it? So Macron, Scholz, Baerbock or Sunak or all those people, man, or in Italy that what is her name? I forgot. Whatever. So this is Kommersant newspaper's report. Also, and by the way, Kommersant is writing that Hungary is already expressing its worries about possibility that transit of Russian gas will stop after 2024, when contract will expire between Russia and Ukraine about transit of gas. And maybe Russian gas transit will end even earlier than 2024, because lately Zelensky's regime is destroying pipelines left and right, or trying to destroy pipelines left and right. Just recently they did manage to blow up this ammonia pipeline, Tolyatti, Odessa. They did conduct quite a few strikes against Druzhba pipeline. And in one instance they even managed to damage slightly. And I guess they are quite capable to destroy gas pipelines also that going through Ukraine. That's how crazy they are, really. And well, if it was up to me, of course, I will never prolong this contract with Ukraine. And European states will have to find some other ways to receive gas from Qatar, from US, or from whoever. But I don't think Russia have to prolong this contract to give some additional money to Zelensky's regime. But yet again, will Zelensky's regime still exist in 2024, towards end of 2024? I don't think so. So, yes, quite interesting topic, but it's too early yet to Budapest, I guess, to worry about this stuff, because towards end of 2024, when this contract will expire, there may be not just no Zelensky's regime left, but there may be no Ukraine as a state on the political map. And then some other contracts will be signed. Maybe directly between Russia and Hungary, and Russia and other future neighbors of Russian Federation. Let me continue now, and I did spoke about this topic. I did spoke about this. One more news. Yes, this is it. One more news, and that's it for today's extremely long update. UK mortgage payers hit with a shock rate hike, according to RT. Well, Bank of England did make decision to increase interest rate, and well, I don't think it was shock really, but RT is reporting now that Bank of England is in difficult position because they want to tackle inflation on the one hand, and same time they don't want to increase interest rate too much, not to create some problems in mortgage sector. They have to balance somehow, and inflation is quite high in UK, and many members of our community did write quite many times in comment sections that inflation is really becoming a problem for the UK citizens. And well, I think UK will deal with this issue. It does has a strong economy. It does has a strong economy. All UK needs really is some sane people in the government, in my opinion. And United Kingdom will be fine. It does have a great economy, great financial sphere. Yes, because of politicians and elites, UK is losing its significance when it comes to financial sector, step by step, and we may see an outflow of investments and finances from UK if current crazy policies of UK's elites will continue. But if there will be some changes, I guess UK will be okay. So yes, Bank of England did rise interest rate just a little bit, but yes, interesting, because we did not hear this type of information from the Western states that often when central banks are forced to balance between inflation and some other sectors of economy, like mortgage sector, for example, because of course once central bank is rising interest rates, then other banks will follow suit, and eventually who gonna pay for all of this? Yet again, ordinary citizens, isn't it? And before, as I understand, inflation was not really known for many Western states for decades, really. For decades, and entire industries were built on extremely low inflation. Thanks to extremely low inflation. But now I know it's different times, man, and I guess inflation is in Western world for to stay for quite a while. Anyway, this is it for now. I guess this update is the longest one that I ever made. Well, I hope you will find this news that I did share with you interesting and significant, and if so, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. That will comments, likes and shares will definitely help me to reach wider audience. And if you think this channel is interesting, useful, informative, and deserves to exist in this world of news and political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box. Once again, thank you very much for your attention. I wish you a great day and a great upcoming weekend. Take care.